Hey y'all, what's up? It's your boy Evan. Welcome to the Cartoon Block. Today I'm going to show you how to sketch Jessica Jones. Let's get started. So starting out, I like to begin with an oval shape for her head, or any head really, any kind of humanoid character. You want to begin with an egg shape. So we're going to have her looking down slightly at us, so her head is kind of tilted down towards us. So when you're drawing her horizontal guideline for her eyes, you want to make sure you draw it in a U-shaped formation. Think of the head as a basketball, and if you have a basketball looking directly on it with the vertical and horizontal lines straight, and you tilt the ball down, then the horizontal lines will be curved. And this is very important to understand as an artist, because your job is to draw things in 3D to make sure it has depth, because you're drawing on a flat surface. And so here I want to go ahead and keep her eyes on this guideline, but I want to make her eyes a little bit more stylized, so I have to be careful on how they wrap around her head, especially her left eye, which is a little bit further away from us right here. I want to go ahead and make that eye smaller. And her right eye right here will be a little bit larger. It's ever so slight. And just take your time with it. And she's going to have this angry expression. And we want to bring her eyebrows down to her to touch her upper eyelid. Now, very few people have that, where when they're angry and they have their eyebrows furrowed, rarely do their eyebrows, touch the upper eyelid. But for the sake of comic books and animated characters, our job is to exaggerate that feature. And that's where we get, have artistic license to do that. And we can make a character look, super happy, or super sad, or super angry. It's up to the individual artist to do that. But overall, our purpose is to go ahead and tell a story with the characters. So when people see a picture, a drawing of yours, you want them to feel something when they see it. You're trying to evoke an emotion out of your audience when they look at your artwork. And when you get an emotional response out of them, they'll remember you. Hopefully it's on a positive note, not on a negative note, not in like, oh, that's a bad artist. So you don't want that kind of emotional response, but you want them vested in the character and in the artwork. And so now I'm going to have her mouth down here. Now, because her head is turned away from us slightly, and her head is turned away from us slightly and looking down, and I'm going to have her mouth open. So she's basically going to be looking, at the camera and thinking to herself, bring it, I'm ready. So she's ready to throw down with somebody. But I want her lips to be kind of like, curled and show some teeth. So she's pretty, but we do want her looking kind of menacing. And to do this, you do want to go ahead and have some reference handy. And for this, I'm kind of like just looking at myself. And may have to come back and tackle this mouth a little bit later. Not really feeling it. And that's just art sometimes. Everything will not turn out 100% like you plan it to turn out. You will have to kind of go back and study it. And by study it, I mean, for artists, draw it over. Find some reference and copy the photograph over and over. That's what an artist's studies are. They copy a drawing over and over. Is the same studies that you look in the history books at the painters, the masters. You could look at their studies and see what they did and how they, concentrated. They drew like a finger like 1,000 times. They drew like a foot, 500 times in different, angles and positions. So you can go ahead and just do the same thing. You study it by copying it over and over and over and over again. So I want to go ahead and stick with this, my HB lead pencil, because it makes me feel better knowing that I have decided upon some final lines for her mouth. So now I can zoom out and tackle the rest of her face. So I want to start curving out her cheek line, and I don't want her face to be the outline of her face to be too angular. She is a woman, and I do want her to be pretty. And the way we kind of hint at her softness and her femininity is to make sure that her outline stays somewhat smooth and soft edges. Unless she was like a villain, someone like Cruella de Vil from 101 Dalmatians. Notice how the designers made her very angular, because you want people to feel uncomfortable when they see her. She's the villain, and you can kind of like, insinuate those things in your character design. They're very subtle, and the audience will never pick up on that unless you've studied art. But the general audience and population will never pick up on that. They don't know why that they like one character and hate another one. They don't know why. They can't explain it to you. But you, the artist, it's your job to study that character design and that feeling of what shapes evoke certain emotional responses out of us. Rounded characters like Pikachu and, Jigglypuff and Dora the Explorer. They're all round, soft characters because they're mainly, targeted at children. But then you have like, villains like Jafar from Aladdin or Cruella de Vil from 101 Dalmatians. They're more angular and hard-edged and with more corners and things like that. So take a look at some of your favorite animated films and look and see, with the sound off, put it on mute and just watch the movie and just see why you don't like certain characters. It's all a visual thing. A lot of planning and preparation and design went into those characters to make sure that you felt what the directors and creators wanted you to feel. Now for her hair, we're going to have like this part going up the middle of her head, and I have these bangs going off on the side. So her hair is going to be kind of like a little bit like, flung outward. And I'm kind of just figuring it out as I go along here. And throw in her neck a little bit, and gonna start putting in or blocking off her fists. So she's pretty much gonna be just like I said, she's ready to throw down, knock somebody out. And I'm looking at like some reference of like my own hand as I'm drawing this, just to kind of see how it is. And you can do the same thing. Just take some reference pics of your own hand, your own fist. Hands can be very difficult because they're not like a face or a chest or an arm. The hands have many different, possible configurations, especially from different angles. So drawing the side of a fist, it can be kind of challenging. So take a look at your own fist, but block it in with the basic shapes like I'm doing here. Starting out with like a big, rectangular shape for her fingers, all together, and then dividing it accordingly. We have her thumb at the bottom going across the knuckles, and kind of have her fingers slightly fanned out in like a fanning pattern. Now I want to go ahead and flesh out some of her hair. I'm not sure if I want it to be kind of curly or just one long fell swoop. And then going back down to her knuckles and fleshing that out some more. and then putting a little crease in the fold of her pinky finger and in some of the fingers. And Jessica has these fingerless gloves, so we're going to go ahead and just draw her gloves in here. And I'm not drawing my own hand exactly, I'm just putting in the general shapes that the fingers and hand have. So you can be looking at, like your own photos. If you're a guy looking at your fingers, you can draw feminine hands. If you're a girl drawing masculine fingers, you can still look at your own hand. You're just looking for the pattern that the hands have. And now moving on to her right fist, same thing. We're drawing like a block, not a square, a block. We're showing the back of her hand up top and then her fingers fanning out in front. Or you could also grab reference online and look at boxers and see how their hands are in this formation. Whatever you have to do, take a look at your own hands, ask your husband, your wife, your mom, your sister, your brother, whoever, to just pose for you and take some reference pictures of them. And now coming back up here with her hair, I want to see how much of her hair and her fists will overlap one another. And I have some reference here of the actress Kristen Ritter, so to kind of see how her costume looks and how her features look. I won't be drawing Kristen Ritter exactly, but just to kind of get a feel of Jessica. So that mouth is still bugging me, so we're gonna have to tackle that again. I want to get the center of her head, draw that line down here, and we're gonna make her mouth wider, and I think that will be more appealing. So let's go ahead and kind of tackle this. I do want the corners of her mouth to be very defined because I think that adds to her personality. So I'm going to draw her this basic shape of her lips going off to the side, just out past her nose on both sides. But we're not drawing the lips equally on both sides of that vertical center line because, like I said, her head is turned slightly away from us. So the left side of her lips will be smaller, just like her left eye is smaller than her right eye. And this is why the center line is so important. It gives you that orientation that you need. So you're not just drawing, facial features and you're not even sure what you're drawing or where the center of the line is or anything like that. You want to make sure that you take your time to go ahead and focus on the facial features and that they're, in their proper orientation. So now I want to get her bottom lip. Not sure if I want her lip to be fully curved at the bottom or kind of have that little slight dip in it. I think it looks more interesting with the dip. It kind of adds a little bit pizzazz to her lips. And as the artist, it's up to you, however you want to go ahead and draw the characters. You can draw them, with extra details and curves and corners or not. It's entirely up to you. It just depends on what you want to do and what you have in mind and how your art makes you feel and the feeling that you're trying to portray to your audience. And sometimes it takes more tweaking. So I want to have her lips kind of just tucked in a little bit more. And this further adds to the illusion of her head, the lips wrapping around or her mouth wrapping around her skull. We're showing it in that proper perspective. And now that the lips are done, now we can go ahead and start adding in some teeth. Not drawing every tooth. A lot of aspiring artists tend to do that, and you don't want to do that. You want to just draw the separation line where the upper jaw and the lower jaw meet, and then kind of like fade that out into white. So you don't even want to draw it, straight across all the way. And add a few lines for shading I'm going to erase out some of the highlights on her lips. And this is pretty much a rough sketch of Jessica. This is all you need. And just for the sake of keeping her looking a little bit more attractive, we're going to go ahead and round out her chin so it's not as pointed, and give her a little bit softer features just by rounding out her face. So there you have it. That's the rough sketch of Jessica Jones. So go ahead and click here for part 2, where I cover shading and highlights. Thanks for watching. And if you're still having a hard time coming up with your own superhero body, then click the link below in the description and get my free superhero mini course. Get started right now. Don't wait.